Discovery is often discussed in the context of sales, but it's not covered nearly enough as an essential skill for customer success. Yet, it is a crucial skill when it comes to working with existing customers. For example, when a client becomes a churn risk, one of the most important first steps is conducting churn risk discovery. And this is so we can determine the root cause of the churn risk. But this step is often missed altogether. When a client mentions they're considering cancellation or hesitating about a renewal, what usually happens? It's like pulling out the fire hoses. Am I right? I know that we've been there if we've been a CSM for any length of time. Everyone scrambles to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at the client in a desperate bid to save them. But here's the catch. In that frantic rush, we actually often miss the mark because we haven't paused, taken a breath, and conducted proper discovery to diagnose the root cause of that churn risk. And until we do that, we're just guessing about what's causing the churn, which can lead to wasted time, energy, and resources. So, how can we turn this around? We need to conduct a churn risk discovery call. This isn't just about saving a renewal. It's about rebuilding trust and fostering a collaborative relationship with the client. So, what does good discovery look like? Well, let's anchor this back to one of our favorite buyer and customer enablement frameworks, PART, which stands for problem, action, result, and trigger. And here's how we can assess the situation using PART. So let's start with a high-level overview first. So during churn risk discovery conversations, we really should focus on two essential levels of the problem. The first is the product and service problems that the customer is experiencing. We need to identify the problems that the client has had with the adoption, services, and perceived value of your solution, and what problems that they have encountered when working with your organization. So is this something that's specific to the product? Are they finding that your organization has been a little difficult to work with because of slow response times? What are really the core problems that relate to your product and your company? Then the second level of business problems is around what the client is currently facing in terms of business problems. What problems do they expect us to solve that we haven't been able to solve, if that is the case? Or what are the upcoming problems that they're really focused on, and what priorities is that tied to that they don't have trust in us that we can help them solve? Next, we also need to understand what actions have already taken place and what actions still need to take place. So when it comes to churn risk discovery, we need to understand what actions the clients maybe have already taken, if they're looking at other solutions, and we also have to isolate the actions that we need to take in order to try and save the client. And more specifically, we break this down into three core layers. The first layer is what actions need to be taken in order to address the client's problems. And that's in regards to both problems that they're experiencing with our product or organization or service, and what problems that they're facing with their business challenges. The next layer is what actions have already been taken and what additional actions need to be taken in order for them to solve their problem. So where are they in their journey? We need to identify and work with them and ask the right discovery questions that's going to identify what actions have been taken, what has worked, what hasn't, and what additional actions that still need to be taken in order to solve those problems. Again, both from our product, service, company perspective and their business problems. Then the third and final layer around action is what action has the client taken in their cancellation and evaluation and decision process. So this helps us assess where they are in their evaluation and decision to cancel and not renew. Have they already started evaluating other solutions? Are they just considering, maybe this isn't working for us, we will just go back to what we were doing before? We need to really assess where they are, and this will tell us the degree of the churn risk and if we have a chance of saving it, and it'll help inform what actions we can take in order to help prevent this churn if they're not too far along that churn path. The other element our discovery needs to address is results. So we need to understand the outcomes the client aimed to achieve but didn't, and what results they need to achieve moving forward. And then last but certainly not least, we need to identify the real trigger for their decision to churn. This is not just the contract expiration date. It could be the deadline for signing a new contract with a competitor, or budget reallocation timeline, or it could be related to a business problem the client does not believe we can help with and is their top business priority. So we need to ask discovery questions that help us identify these points. And the most effective way to do this is to ask layered questions. Good discovery is like an onion, and there are many layers to it. So let's get a little bit more specific on that and how to approach discovery effectively. So if you think of an onion, the outermost layer is often thin and pretty easy to peel off. And this is the same for the first layer of information that we can gather even before a discovery call. So this is the first layer and first step towards our discovery approach. And what we're looking to assess is the fit. This includes details like the industry, company size, use case, and the needs of the client. And while you might be thinking, well, if this is a client, then of course it'd be a fit. But I would say not so fast to that. There are many cases where sales have sold to bad fit clients who would have a challenging time being successful with certain solutions. There are also times when clients actually fall out of product market fit and no longer qualify as good fit customers, whether that's because of technological changes, market changes, whatever the case may be. So we have to reconfirm whether clients are a good fit. Let's look at a specific example. Let's say we are a CSM for a call recording and revenue intelligence platform, and one of our ideal customer profiles are large enterprise software companies with large sales teams. In this case, we might say, if we're looking at that outermost layer, the client is a $1 billion MarTech company with a large sales team and needs a way to understand what's happening in the field with their sales team. We can confirm that they are still, in fact, a good fit client. Okay, so based on our assessment of the client, we've identified that they are still a fit. So this is the easy part. The next is that we need to dig a layer deeper, and this is where part comes into play. If you took our modern day approach to account research course, you'll remember how part helps us to research and develop our hypothesis and problem statement. It guides us in understanding what problems the client needs to solve. The discovery call then becomes an opportunity to validate whether our hypothesis is correct and to gather additional insights about the client. But before we get into the discovery questions that you can ask, I want you to think a bit more about the type of information we are trying to find out. We want to find and get to the root cause of why they are a churn risk. So let's say, for example, that this is a client who is onboarded, but engagement was lacking throughout their customer journey. There was no success plan in place, and results weren't being tracked. If we think about this scenario with proper discovery questions, we want to pull out information such as, we've rolled out your solution to our sales team with the goal of improving sales performance, but our team never fully adopted your platform. Okay, so again, this is the next layer of information. We need to dig into a lot more layers and dig deeper. So we want to ask questions that gets clients to share details such as, our reps were using your platform for call recording, but deal boards were not rolled out and frontline managers did not use it for coaching. We didn't get the value we needed, and we needed more support. So with asking questions that start digging into what actions were taken or not taken, if we can start to understand what was lacking in terms of actions on their part and ours, we can start to get a little bit more detailed and pull those threads a little bit further so we can understand what impact that this has had on the client. Now, you might be thinking at this point as well, we should know this information because there are existing clients. But just bear with me here because there's a lot of cases where clients become disengaged or we never engage with clients to begin with. So unfortunately, sometimes our discovery conversations are really going to be pretty baseline and they are going to have to go back to some of the basic information. If that's not the case for you, what I'd encourage you to consider right now is what are the types of action elements that you need to identify. So go back to what I mentioned earlier with the layers of part. and start thinking through what actions do we need to identify that they've taken that haven't worked, what actions have they taken in their reevaluation of our renewal, and what actions need to be taken in order to save this client. So again, this is just one scenario. But going back to our scenario for this example, this now gives us an indication of what actions and adoption were lacking. It also tells us that there is an issue with the results that they were achieving, or in this case, probably not achieving. So by identifying what results were missed as a result of the lack of action and adoption, we can start to understand and diagnose what their target results and KPIs are that they need to achieve. This will go a long way in helping assess not only how we can help get this client back on track and hopefully save them, but how we need to measure success going forward. When it comes to results, we ultimately want a client to reveal something like the AEs who adopted your platform did see an improvement in win rates and a reduction in average deal time. However, too many reps did not adopt, so we didn't see the ROI we needed to justify the spend. We need to directly tie how this platform helps us to hit our targets, improve rep efficiency, and speed up deal velocity across the entire team. So now, if we're asking the right questions, we really should be getting into some of the key KPIs and results that they care most about. So then this will help inform our approach in terms of what we need to align with our clients on in order to help them be successful and achieve the results that they need to achieve. Finally, we must identify the trigger. What top priority is this problem tied to, if any? What is triggering a need for our solution right now? We need to establish whether we are perceived as a nice to have or if a solution like ours is a need to have and budget is still allocated, but the client is looking at replacing us with a competitor. We'd want to get a client to tell us something like, if we don't hit our revenue goals by the end of the next quarter, we will be facing layoffs. We need solutions that have a bigger impact and will be completely adopted across our entire team. So with our discovery conversations, this is the type of detail we want to find out. And again, I know I didn't give you example discovery questions, but in my experience, sometimes discovery questions aren't adequate enough because we don't know where it is that we're trying to get to. So we don't know what questions we need to ask. And the PART framework helps us identify these factors. So take a look at the client situation, assess the fit, and then identify what it is that you need to find out about this particular scenario. What do you know and what do you not know? What do you need to know in order to create short-term recovery with the churn risk and long-term success with your client and retention? I also want to add that when I talk about the layers of discovery involving PART, I also don't mean to imply that it's an exact science and questions should always be asked in this exact order. We all know that prospects and client calls don't operate the same way every time. So don't expect this to be a precise cadence for every discovery call. We want this to be a conversation, not an interrogation. So regardless of order, when engaging in churn risk discovery or any type of discovery at all, it's crucial to ask layered questions that dig deeper than surface level concerns. And here are some additional tips for effective discovery. First, be natural. Avoid asking questions in a scripted manner. Instead, let the conversation flow naturally to encourage open dialogue. Make it a conversation and not an interrogation, like I just mentioned a few moments ago. And again, if we know where we're trying to get to and we understand the type of details that we're trying to pull out, we're not going to need a script. We can have a more natural conversation because we have an end goal in mind. And so this is how you start layering your questions really proficiently. You can start with broad questions while providing context to the questions you're asking so you can keep the conversation on track and relevant. Then you gradually dig deeper to uncover meaningful insights. And lastly, be patient. It may take more than one call to get to the bottom of everything, and that's perfectly okay. And you also might need to let your client vent. So be patient, be empathetic, and bring some curiosity to the call as well. Through effective churn risk discovery, we can identify where we fell short in solving our clients' problems and achieving their goals. This insight allows us to realign on how to rectify issues and support them moving forward. Letting the client's problem guide the conversation really enables us to focus on how we can help them succeed. And one of the added benefits of this root cause discovery, we can take these insights and apply them to enhance the buyer and customer journey. By understanding the reasons behind churn, we can shift our focus from reactive save plays to proactive measures that prevent churn risks in the first place. So, if you want to learn more about the specific discovery questions that you could ask, we will cover this in a future video. But if you don't want to wait, check out our blog post on churn risk discovery, which provides some specific questions. You can also take our discovery skills course, which is part of our Quest to Quota attainment series, and you'll find links to all of this in our description. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more revenue generating tips, including those discovery churn risk questions.